Okay. Hello and welcome everybody to our next webinar of mobile web dev. I hope you all are having a great day. I think we can wait for 1 minute for everybody to join in, and then we'll start our session.
Cool. I guess people will take some time.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start. They'll join us. So, welcome. Today we have with us Mr. Arpan Garg. He is the creator of Commutal, and he's also the organizer of GDG Delhi. I am myself very inspired by him and all of his contributions to the technical communities, and I have been a great fan of him throughout my engineering college. And today he'll be telling us about how to understand different authentication methods, and he'll help us and guide us through the process. And any doubts or any comments or anything that you want to ask him, you can drop in the comment box. And yeah, so now over to you, Arpan. Thank you for coming and joining us today.
Thank you so much, Lakshita, and thank you so much, mobileweb.dev, for inviting me over. It's a pleasure and an honor to be speaking again. It's quite some time since I've been here, and always fun to interact with people around. And I guess me and Lakshita have met in quite a number of events, and it's been going like the network grows as and more events you attend, and all of the people you meet are great people. Amazing. Okay, so today's session, specifically, if I say that the way it is going to proceed is exactly in the slide that you're seeing right now. And it is exactly about how your session or how it works when you are browsing through a website in terms of how the website or the web application or the mobile application recognizes you. So what we'll do is we'll keep things very simple and talk in very general terms instead of going and diving deep into things and then getting lost at different things which might get a little complicated. We'll try to understand the crux of everything so that we can go back and explore things on our own as well. And for any questions or anything, feel free to just ping and I'll take a pause and I'll answer the questions. And I hope you find all of this useful. Okay, so the first thing, when you begin with a website, you need to create an account. Not everywhere, but since we are talking in terms of authentication, in terms of signing up, signing in, browsing. So then what happens is, basically, in very basic terms, you enter email, you enter password, and then the database has an entry of your name and email and password, whatever details you've entered. So that gets created, but you cannot yet start using the website. Well, in some cases you can, but let's think about the more secure cases here. Okay, so most of the websites these days will send you a verification link back to your email ID. Then once you click that link, your account gets validated, activated, and you are now a verified user of that website, right? Otherwise, it will keep pinging you that either you cannot log in till you verify the link, or the second part could be that, probably it will let you browse through, but for a certain limited number of days or with limited set of features. So what happens? You enter the email, you enter the password, the user gets created, but you cannot start using it. So you have to click the verification link on the website, on the email that you get from the website, from the server, and that the account gets enabled, right? Okay, what happens in case of a phone number? Well, similar kind of thing. You enter the phone number. You do not need to enter what password you want to keep. It gives you an OTP back. Once you enter the OTP, it gets verified and your account gets enabled or created, whatever ways. A lot of times websites create the account when you enter the first set of details, which are basically these details. A lot of times they do not get created at this stage, but we will assume that there is some record in the database and it just waiting to be verified, because if you do not verify, you will keep on receiving emails. So which means that your account is getting created. Okay. So, but then there is another way. For example, on Communal or on a lot of websites these days, you click login using Google, login using Facebook, login using GitHub, or any other third party. What happens there? A little more number of steps, not for the user just, but on the server side as well. So you click a button, for example, say sign in with Google. It takes you to the respective website for signing in. For example, if it is Google, then it will go to Google. And once you sign in over there, or if you're already signed in, say with one or more than one accounts, you choose which account you want to use. It will send back an access token to your website or to your web application, the one which you are using. It might be someone else's website also. So it sends back to that. Post that, that access token is sent to the server. Now, what is the difference between website and server? Okay, let me come back. Sign in with Google gets clicked. You are redirected to another page, which basically lets you log into Google. Once you log in, it redirects back to or closes that tab or pop-up that opens up and sends certain data back to the browser where you were on this button, okay, with an access token. Now your browser will send it back to the server, just like you were sending the phone number to the server. Server is a remote machine. I hope people understand. If you don't understand server, ping. I'll basically try to make it very easy for you to understand that. Okay. So coming back, click on sign in with Google. Go to Google, signed in. It will give you a token. Token is basically a string, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, or something that it created for you. How it created, how it works, we'll come to that later on. It gives you a string that is going back to your server, and it again verifies. It asks Google again that is this key that I've received from the user valid? Why does it do that? You know, you can always right click, inspect element, and do some changes and send the dummy key and say I logged in from Google. Well, how does the server verify that you are an actual user? Well, using this. So with this access token, there is information like your email ID, your any other details, including name, your profile picture, or anything could be there. And then it gets verified and your account gets enabled. Here, you did not have to do in terms of setting a password or anything, because next time you'll log in, you'll just sign in with Google and your account gets created. Why I have created sign in with Google? It could be sign up with Google also. This is basically a screenshot of the button. All right. So 3 steps, 3 things basically: username, password, verification link, phone number, OTP, and then signing in with Google, wherein you are redirected back, or maybe a pop-up opens and it closes, sends some data, gets verified, and your account is created. Now you can access the website. All right. So if I basically put some terminologies over here, how it works: basic authentication, simple authentication with a verification link. It is known as that. The lower part, which is OpenID. Why OpenID? Well, OpenID is basically a protocol that is followed by these authentications which we are using. So OpenID means anyone can use Google to verify their users, to create users using Google's verification. So it follows certain set of protocols. Similarly for Facebook, similarly for GitHub, or any other open auth like OpenID authentication that you're using. What is a protocol? Protocol is a set of rules. Just like we are right now conversing in English. So if I start speaking in, say, another language which you do not understand, then we won't be able to communicate well. Similarly, protocol is a set of rules which both the parties follow. That is, Google would follow and the server would follow, so that they can communicate with each other, right? Okay, so moving on. What happens next? Till then, if you have any questions, just ping. If you think I'm going too fast, ping. If you are still confused, I can show you the process, what is happening when you're logging in with Google. Okay. All right. So let's move. Signing in. What happens? Now, this is just the user's perspective, the way you see it. Going into the depth of it in the next step. and it is all very simple. Don't worry. So you enter an email ID, you enter a password, and it is sent to the server. Server verifies it, and voila, you're logged in, right? Next, you enter a phone number, it gets verified. Okay, this phone number is existing in the database because you signed up earlier. So whenever you signed up, something got stored in the database, right? So it will verify, okay, you're trying to sign in. Let me check if the database has this phone number. If it does not, it will say account not found. If it finds that account, and similarly with email and password, if it does not match, then it will show you an error. So in case of phone number, then it will say, okay, I'm going to send you an OTP, and then once you correctly enter the OTP, then you'll be logged in. Okay. Next, there is another way, which is exactly the same thing that was happening earlier with Google, right? All the same set of steps will follow. You click on sign in with Google, a pop-up opens or a new tab opens, and you sign in with the desired account, and then it'll send a token back. That token gets verified, and it has an email ID and everything. Token is a string, just to reiterate, and then you are logged in. So if your account already existed, then it will verify. If your account did not exist, or if you are entering, or if you're forging and doing some hacky thing, then your account, you won't be able to sign in. As simple as that, right? Okay, so let me try and show it to you before moving on to the next slide. Let's go to Communal, and I'll just sign out for now. Okay, now in Communal, what I'm doing is I've created another URL, author.communal.com, which is basically author. I just modified the spelling. It's not an error. I just intentionally did that. So it says signed in with Google, which means I'm already signed in with Google, but not into Communal, because otherwise this page would not have opened, right? So when I click on this, it asks me which account do I want to open into. I click on this, and it will take me back. So when the part where we were basically going to author.communal.com, it took me to Google. That was the next page that opened. While it was coming back, Google sent some information, which was having email ID, token, my name, and everything. And then author sent it to some server, the Communal server, and there it got verified. Okay, all right. So if you're not well versed with what is a server, what is token, or any term that you do not understand, just feel free to put in. This is not a class. This is just a talk that we are having, and it should be interesting for all of us, right? Okay. So there is some more ways of signing in. Signing up had those set of ways that we said. Signing in has more ways. Ever heard of two-factor authentication? You can put it on your Gmail accounts, right? You enter username, you enter the password, and if you have entered the correct password, then what happens? It will send you an OTP again, and then you verify, and then you're able to access. Pretty secure, right? Even if someone gets access to your password, they might not have access to your phone. But if they have access to both, then you should pray. So what else other than OTP? Well, other than OTP, there could be some security question that you've put in. What was the name of your first pet animal? What was your first car, or anything? Or else there are authenticator apps these days that you can use. So Google has a Google Authenticator app. There is a Microsoft Authenticator app. What it does is it regenerates a certain set of codes, basically not a set of codes, a new code every certain set of seconds. So for example, a code is valid for 30 minutes, 30 seconds, 1 minute or something. And that code you have to put to Google while logging in at that point of time. If 30 seconds pass, then a new code is generated, and then you'll have to put the new code. And that code, the algorithm that is basically being run to generate that code on that Authenticator app, you can install it on Android, iPhone, whatever operating system you have on your mobile. The same algorithm is being run on the server of the web application, Gmail or anything. And basically what happens is the code matches at any certain point of time, the generated code. So you take the code, you send the same code, because both of them are having the same code. All right. Okay. Next, well, you have a unique key, right? You have 5 unique keys. You have 10 unique keys. In fact, 20, including your toenails, toe tips, right? So you can, scan in and you can sign in. But for the first time, you usually enter your username, your password, and then set up your fingerprint. For example, when you basically get a phone, then what you do is you set up your account and everything, then authenticate your fingerprint into that you are able to log in using the fingerprint. So that is how it works. These are all the ways. What is this 2FA? 2FA is two-factor. MFA is multi-factor authentication. So instead of these 2 steps, there could be more than 2 steps as well. If you want, after the OTP, if you want to use authenticator app also, if the web application or website or whatever thing you are trying to log into has that option, you can do that. And a lot of players support it these days. Okay, so moving on. I hope the signing in and signing up parts have been delivered clearly. If you have any doubts or anything or any questions, just feel free to ping. I guess there are there are 9 or 8 people which are there. So if you have anything that you want to ask or something, you can please put it over here. Let me put up a question, in fact. So let's begin with, what is one website, other than, if you've used Communal or not, other than Communal, that you've used for Google login? Any example? Now, if people are watching, if you can, respond in the comment section. I'm curious to know. Just remember, just try to remember. Okay, just waiting. All right. I'll try to move ahead with the slides while the answers are coming in. And let's look at this. All right. So while we are browsing the web, there are very basic 2 terms, request and response. When I enter www.google.com or youtube.com or anything, I am sending a request to a server that I want to access certain data which is placed in your database. And it responds, or it sends back a response. So first, get hold of the color scheme. Yellow means request and white means response in terms of arrows, because we'll be using a lot of arrows in the coming slides. All right. So when you are accessing a website, you are browsing, you are clicking a like button, or you are entering anything into the comments section and pressing enter or pressing that send button, you're sending a request, and what you're getting back is a response. So request, response, request, response. Yeah, that is how the whole of web works. Even if you're using a mobile app which is having a server, for example, you might be using Twitter, you tweet. So consider that to be a request being sent. And once it is getting saved on the database, it says yes or 200 or successful. 200 is the code for being successful, the successful request. Okay. All right. Just let me enable my comments tab over here. Right. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. This is another example. For example, you go to Facebook, you say, I want to access my profile. So it says, here's a profile. But if you want to say that, I am clicking this like button, so like my friend's post, if you're not signed in, it'll say you must sign in first. Who are you? Why should I let you click like? Like, how will I recognize who liked this? So you have to prove your identity. Similar to, let us say, when you ring the bell of your house, someone will look into the peephole, or maybe they will open the wooden door and there is a mesh door outside that. They'll say, okay, see your face, recognize, and then let you in. But if you ring the bell of someone else's door and they open, and they'll be asking, who are you, whom do you want to meet? And if they do not recognize you, either they'll call the cops on you, or they'll shut the door on your face and they'll be like, okay, go away. Right? So that is how it works even in web. So it is all related to real life. It is all real life concepts, how it works. Now, next slide. While we are browsing the web, now we have signed up, we have signed in. While we are browsing, there is one thing that we need to understand. Whenever I'm sending a request and I'm receiving a response, for example, I say I'm sending username and password to Facebook's server, right? Facebook says, okay, your username is correct, your password is correct, I found you. Okay, I found you, I recognize you, you are Arpan. But when I send in the next request, I say that I want to like this. Well, do I send username and password every time so that Facebook says, I know Arpan is going to like this. Arpan is liking this. Arpan has clicked the comments section and sent out an emoji on a comment or on a post. Well, that would be tedious, right? And anyone can steal the username and password from by right click inspect element and going somewhere and finding that. So there is no relation between me sending username and password and basically in the next request sending a like request. There is no relation. Both are the requests are called as stateless. So whenever you are sending requests, those are both independent requests. One request sent, response comes in, over. Another request sent, response comes in, over. So 1 and 2 are completely unrelated. You are on the browser, that is the server. Server is having requests from thousands and thousands of users. So every request that comes in cannot come with username and password. It can, obviously, but unsafe. So how do I say that once I sign in, I do not need to enter the same username and password again and again? There has to be basically no relation between these requests. That is how HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol, works. But how do I make that relation? How do I say that, okay, server, you have signed me in. Now, next time when I send the request, you need to automatically recognize me. Well, how to do that? That is the next slide. Well, again, that is what I said. How do we prevent from signing in again and again? This is how it works. You send a username and password to the server. There is a function, a logic running on the server side. And what it does is it basically creates a secret token, a key, using some algorithm. Stateless. Okay. Shalini is asking what is stateless. Let's go back. Stateless. Probably let me look at how to more easily say that. All right. Once you are signed in, I send a request to the server. I say, this is my username, this is my password, I want to sign in. Next time, I say, this is a post, I want to like it. Now, I over here is not defined because I'm saying username and password is sent. The server says, okay, Arpan, I recognize you. You are Arpan. It gives me a response, hi, Arpan. Next time when I send it, I say, hey, I'm Arpan. I want to basically like this post. But there is no relation. So the state of me being signed in is not maintained because tomorrow I say, hey, I'm probably Shalini and I want to like this post. I will be able to then like the post as you, right? So the state does not maintain for that. That is how it works. Let me put it more simply. When you are sending in one request, then you are sending in another request. There is no relation between them, as I mentioned earlier as well. So I need to create that relation. Since the relation is not there, that is why it is called as stateless. There is no state maintained. Once I sign in, the server does not know that the second request is also coming from me only. I need to tell the server how that I am signed in. It is me, it is Arpan who is signed in. The server does not know. Once I send the username and password, I cannot keep on sending it again and again. Okay, so I hope a little more clarity is something that I could give. If not, then you can say again, and I'll be happy to probably put out another example from real life. Okay, all right. So, in fact, mm, yeah, let's take an example of the movie Gajini, where the character Amir Khan's character was having very short term memory. So let's say his memory refreshes every time he meets a new person, every time he meets someone. So first time I go to him, he gives me a photo. He clicks a photo of me and gives it to me. Next time I go and meet him, he won't recognize me. So how do I make him recognize me? I show him the photo. See, I am one of your friends. So that is how he recognized me. So my first meeting with him and my second meeting with him, both are stateless. Like the state does not maintain. He does not remember me from the first meeting, right? Unless I tell him, okay, we met. See, I have proof. All right. So I hope that will clear. Okay, let's move on. So now, just like Amir Khan gave you the photo, the server gives you a string, an authentication token, or a key, or those are all the different terms that we call it. Okay, so once you receive this key, then that is basically your authentication, and that is something that is stored in the database. But how? Okay, we will expand on this in the next set of 5-7 slides, and we'll go for it. Okay, let's move. So now, as I mentioned before, this is a key. I hope you recognize this thing basically. This is JSON or key value or dictionary. These are the three ways we call it. JSON is JavaScript object notation. So there's a key. Oops, when I click, the slide changes. There's a key, there's a value. There's a key, there's a value. Okay. So it basically sends back this value, or maybe the key and the value. Let's assume that it sends me the key and the value. This value is my unique photograph that I got from Gajini. Okay. Now, in real life, coming to monolithic servers. Before that, before explaining how cookies work or whatever text you are seeing, just put all your attention towards me. And no, I'm not going to act out or do anything special. I'll just explain what is a monolithic server. So when you are creating a web application, in basic terms, there are two kinds of web applications that we are working on. Okay, one is a monolithic. Monolithic means there is a framework that you're using. For example, you're using Django, which runs on Python. So all the logic functions that are there, which has the logic of who is liking which post, or whose feed should be displaying, whose friends are whose friends. So all of that. So that is written in Python. The HTML and CSS and JavaScript. All these four things are bundled together and in one project. Okay. So whenever I type in, say, for example, Communal was in Django. So then whenever I will type in www.communal.com, the request goes to the server. It decides which page to show, and it sends back HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files onto the browser. So now look at the screen. For example, this is Communal server. So a year ago, it was running like this. In fact, 7, 8 year ago, I should say. So this was Communal server. For example, it was running on Django. So, or Node.js, let's say, because Node.js is the icon here. So Node.js, the database, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. These are the icons if you don't recognize. All these three were bundled together. And what it was sending back was HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So all of that was being sent back whenever I hit www.communal.com or any other web page of Communal. So when I hit with username and password, I said sign in, which is any other page of Communal. What it will do is it will take in the request, match in the database that, okay, does the username match? Does it exist? Is the password correct with the username? If yes, then what it does is in the database, it creates another key, that secret key that we mentioned. For example, it is ASDF 12345 or 123. and it marks an expiry date. For example, it could be 30 days from now. And along with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, since it is controlling the files that it is sending back, it can send a certain set of files which is called as cookies. And I'm not going to call it files. It is basically key value data. Key value data. So there is HTML, there is CSS, there is JavaScript, and there is some extra data which says that this data is valid. This is coming from Commodore.com. And that data is called as cookies. So otherwise, you can hit any server and it will send you any random data, right? So the browser, for the security of your browser, the server needs to send some validated data, validation signatures. It is called as header data. So the response has headers, and header has cookies. Now, what is a cookie? Why am I saying cookie and everything? What is difference? Nothing. Header has one key or a set of keys, which is called as cookies. So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some extra data, which says that my server is valid. It sends back. And in that extra data, it sends me this token. So if you go to your browser, for example, let's go to an incognito tab. Yes, I hope my window is visible. And I open google.com. And if I inspect and I go to application, I go to cookies over here, you'll see all these cookies. Now, why did I specifically go to incognito? Because my safe cookies would be visible otherwise to everyone else. So you will be able to see all these cookies. These are being sent by the server. Okay, let's assume that these are being sent by the server. There are other ways. So once it is in the browser, you can use JavaScript to modify these cookies. And what happens is, now coming back, the browser takes this cookie, and with every communication, every request it sends, it will send back the cookie. The browser and the server both can modify these cookies. So say the browser deletes auth token from the cookie, from this data that is there, right? Then what happens? Server will not be able to recognize that who are you. So this cookie should have this auth token. And you can go and you can find different encrypted cookies for different websites that you are browsing. Don't try to hack them. But yeah, you can find them. You can change the cookie value and you can see that it won't work probably. But yeah, if it tends to work, do inform the server people and the owner of the websites that your website is pretty unsafe. I'm able to access so many people's accounts just by changing the values of the cookies like that. Okay. Okay, so there is a question by Gayan Sanjeev. How Google sends data to our server is that JSON object? Yes. So Google, not to our server. Basically, Google is sending data to your browser, right? You are saying, I want to open google.com. With all the data that it is sending, including HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, it will also send JSON, right? Which is key value pairs or dictionary. It will send a dictionary together. So as long as the browser has this cookie and this cookie has auth token in it, basically your identity gets established. Now, this cookie or this auth token is basically your Gajni wala photograph. Okay. So browser takes that photograph and every time it sends with the request and it receives the same photograph back in the response, right? So that is how you maintain the state. Now your identity can keep on getting established with every request you go send. Now you will be able to see that you are now actually signed in and browsing as Arpan or as a user with your identity token or your key. Now this is very similar to you going to an office and you have an ID card and you're able to show that ID card. See, recognize me. I'm an employee over here. So something like that. Okay, let's move to the next step. Cookie gone. Who are you? That is what the server says. All right, I have explained that. I'll not repeat that. Moving on. Now, again, all your attention towards me. Do not look at the screen. Now, moving on from the monolithic app to an app which is having a separate client and server side. What is that? I have heard it for the first time. I don't know. Those are all valid questions. You can absolutely say that those are valid questions. Okay, so how do I explain? Now, initially, Communal was a monolithic app. Everything was bundled together. It was running on Ruby on Rails, right? Ruby on Rails, HTML files, CSS files, JavaScript files. Whenever you hit something, all those files come across. But it is so heavy as a request, right? All those files coming across. So what did I do was I separated these three files into a front-end framework, Angular. And now with my server, I'm only communicating in JSON. So earlier what was happening was, okay, I'll go back to the slide. With every request that is going, even for login, sign in or anything, every time this whole bundle is getting returned with a different HTML, this different CSS, different JavaScript files. And most of the times, the whole structure of the page remains same. Only certain parts inside the page change. So coming to rescue was Angular. What happens? I've hosted my HTML, CSS, and JavaScript somewhere else on a different server. When I hit www.communal.com, HTML, CSS, JavaScript files are all together fetched over here for all the different pages that are there. And any communication that happens with the server is only in the form of JSON, light communication. So whenever I click something, only text goes and only text comes back, nothing more. A dictionary communication. So that makes the communication very light. Okay, Monica has asked, what is the difference between a token and a cookie? Okay, so I'll go back to the previous slide. So if I say the difference between a token and a cookie, token is just a piece of string and cookie is how it is stored in the browser. When you store it in the browser, over there in that tab of the cookie, you will see that this is the token that is a part of the whole cookie. So these are all different cookie values that are there. So this is one cookie value, this is one cookie value, this is one cookie value, and these are all sent to the server in case of a monolithic app. Okay, I hope that clears, Monica. If not, just let me know. Okay, coming back to the separate client and server side. Now Angular is there. I've got all the HTML, CSS, JavaScript on the browser already loaded. Not very heavy. I've already optimized it. And whenever I click like button or anything, it will just send, okay, like from this person has ID X, and my token is ABCD123, and I send them both to a particular URL. The server recognizes, sends it to a function which creates an entry in the database. Okay, Arpan has liked this post. All right. So that is how it works. But how does signing in and signing out works? There is no communication in terms of cookies, right? But you have JavaScript, right? You have JavaScript, and you are communicating in JSON. So how it works is you have come to the browser, you send in a username and password, it will send back JSON to you, and using JavaScript, you can store it in cookies. Earlier also you were able to do it. What was happening was the server earlier preset the cookie for you. It will bundle the cookie alongside and it will send it back to you. It will automatically get saved in the browser. But here, using JavaScript, I have to manually save it. I can either store it in cookies, I can either store it in local storage. Now, what is local storage? What is cookies? Cookies you've already seen. Using JavaScript, I can set a cookie. And what is local storage? Well, you can type local storage, and you'll see that there is some data over here, which is there from some website that I would have browsed. Yeah, old songs or searching or something like that. So it is all there. I'm not sure which website has stored cookies, or is it only some application or something that has been installed. So that is there. So you can use to store it in local storage as well. But local storage is a little bit unsafe. People take and make an effort to store it or access cookies instead of going to local storage and finding it out. So you tend to store credentials, or not credentials, but valuable information in your cookies, right? So that is how it works. Now, so when we move on to say an Android device, here also front end is separately placed and your server is somewhere else. So Android stores it somewhere in its database, in its memory, whatever device application storage has given to it, right? Okay, so when your application is installed, you have a certain allocated storage to it, so you store that token in it. And every time you make a communication, you are sending that token again. So earlier it was already there, browser automatically sends the cookies, but here all the communication is happening in the form of JSON. And cookie has a lot of information that you might have set manually only for the front end or anything. So here you need to send that cookie manually, but in the response you will not be getting it. So if I come back, every time you're sending something, you are receiving the cookie back also, right? Either modified or the same. Over here, every time you're sending the token, you will not receive the token back, right? You're sending the token just to establish that you are this user. And you have already gotten your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript over here. So all that bundle is not going to arrive back. This is just API-based communication. Initially, it was just being used for Android. So Android as a device does not have cookies or anything. But over here, basically what is happening is you are just getting it back in terms of JSON. So whenever Android makes a communication, it sends the token. And over here, you can see the tokens get stored similarly to this in database. For example, this was a MongoDB database, so it will get stored like this. From web, Arpan has signed in using this token with expiry date this. And from Android, Arpan has signed in using this, using this token with this expiry date. So it will go to the database, it will match, it will find, okay, Arpan is making this request. Let him make this request. Fine. All right. So moving to the next part. I hope this is clear. This is how basic authentication, advanced authentication across different devices at the first stage works. Okay. If you have any doubts or anything you want to ask, please feel free to. Please feel free to ping. I'll be more than happy to answer. Okay. So I'll move to next. But what about JWT? खूब सारा सुनने में आ रहा है. You've heard a lot. JSON Web Token, JWT, JWT, JWT. How does it work? Everything. Trust me, what we've learned till now enables us to use JWT in a very easy manner. Okay, but I'll come back again. One step back. Okay, I signed in, an entry in the database was created because this token is something that is going to be there for me. What if my token is taken by one of you guys? Will you be able to use it and act as Arpan on a certain website? Obviously, yes, absolutely. So whenever you are leaving a desktop or a laptop open with your Facebook account, take that sign out button and locate it and just click it. Because if someone gets access to that cookie, they could not do anything on your PC. Just take that cookie, copy paste it somewhere else, basically that auth token, and do whatever they want to without you knowing. Whereas you would be traveling, or maybe your laptop is just shut down or closed, right? So don't do that. Don't leave it out for others to use. Okay, coming back. Before JWT, we need to understand the difference between authentication and authorization. And a very simple example. Authentication means you can enter the restaurant. Authorization means you can enter the restaurant, but you cannot go and make your own food, right? You as a customer can or have only permissions to eat, order the food, eat it, pay for it, and go back. Similarly, say if you are at a workplace, a huge organization, maybe like Google, maybe like Apple, when you have your ID card, you can access some parts of it. And if there are some top secret projects going on, which no one can access, then you need special permission, or your card needs special permission to access those areas. So authentication means, yes, you are present in the database. So you can start using the website. You're recognized as a user. Authorization means you have some permissions, you do not have some permissions. Probably you can log in, but you cannot modify your friend's profile. You're not authorized to do that. You can modify only your own profile. So that is authentication versus authorization. Here is where JWT is very useful. So again, separate client and separate server is the one where we use JWT most of the times. And here, a lot of times you do not need to store the token into the database. Why? Let's say I sent username and password to communal server, what it will do is it will match, verify that okay, this user is present. Then what it will do is it will collect some of my information. For example, it will collect my name, the device from which I logged in, and it will set an expiry date 1 month from now, and it will take up permissions. For example, I have permission to send emails. I have permission to send emails and create events, right? And for example, if Aman logs in, he will send in his username and password, and he has more permissions for mobile web.dev uh, um, as an admin. So he can send emails, create events, add, remove multiple organizers. Then he'll have those permissions. So these list of permissions are also there, and this is all encrypted into a key. How does encryption happen? I'll give you a very simple example. For example, I'm saying too many for examples, by the way. So I have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and for each letter, I have put up a special character and some numbers. So for A, at the rate. For B, it is 10. For C, it is 100. For D, it is 5. So I take this. This is not a very good. Let's take single digits. For B, it is 5. For C, it is 8, and things like that. And it is encrypted like that. Okay, so all this data is put into a string, device, web, expiry date, permissions, and everything. And it is encrypted and sent back to the device, the front end device, browser, Android, or anything. And similarly for Aman. There is not much of a need to store it in the database. Earlier, everything was being stored in the database. Why? Because next time when me or Aman will ping the server and say, I want to like this post, or I want to send this email, or I want to add an organizer, remove an organizer, then the server will decrypt the key, check if I have that permission, and do the job or tell me that I'm not authorized. So that is how JWT is coming into use. If you want to send extra data with your token, use JWT, and that is useful data. If it is just for the purpose of, people say that JWT is safer, that is why I should use it for multiple device logins, don't use it. You should go with simple authentication token, right? So make a choice only when it is needed. There's no harm in using JWT. It's just that you're just adding an extra layer of security, which you think is secure, but it might not be needed. Token is equally secure in that sense. When you need to use that data, for example, when you are logging into LinkedIn from some other application and it asks for all those permissions, right? So the token that comes back from LinkedIn, or maybe logging into Google and someone asks, okay, I want to access your profile, I want to modify your profile. You do not give that permission. And the token which comes back, it does not have that permission. So the token carries permission, right? Yes, you can, as an added layer of security, what you can do it is with the token, the permissions are there. Plus you can match the token with database. So you store it both the ways. But then again, what's the benefit of having it at both the places, right? So your choice, completely at your choice. How is JWT created? There is a header which says that this is a JWT header. Now, what is a JWT? Again, as it is a JSON web token, it is just like a dictionary. Oops. So there is a header. So header contains information about from whom it is being sent, what kind of a token is it, what encryption methodology is being followed. Payload contains this data, which is there, device type, expiry date, or whatever you want to put in, user's name also, and signature. Signature means basically it says that this has been signed by the server, so this is a valid token. If it is an invalid token, then the server will recognize. This token is saved onto the front end device, and it keeps getting thrown to the server whenever you want to make a request. So this basically sums up everything related to signing in, signing in, and browsing the website. Some libraries that are there, and I'm not suggesting thousands of them. I've just put it to very simple. Ruby on Rails, there is a gem. Gems are libraries in Ruby on Rails. So I use Ruby on Rails a lot. Communal is built on Ruby on Rails. Device is the gem that I use for authentication, the most famous one, the most common used one. Django has a very amazing inbuilt authentication system. You do not need anything outside of it most of the times. I worked extensively on Django as well. Node.js. Passport.js is something I found very useful while creating a course on it. So passport.js is a very commonly used one. Has hundreds of methodologies for different, I would say, strategies, which it calls, for different logins from GitHub, from Facebook, from Google. All those are there, and yeah, I guess those are most of the things. And finally, I would say, don't just be authenticated, be authorized to be able to make those changes. If you're just a user and not doing anything, it's just just signing in that, hey, I am there. So try to do certain changes in your society, the places where you are living. Try to build some good solutions, and don't just be there meaningfully, and enjoy life, enjoy the things that are there, learn to code, build some good solutions. Great. So I guess, yes, that is all from my side. And any questions anyone has, uh, anything you want to ask, uh, would be super happy to answer. And I hope I finished in time. Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Amazing examples, Arpan. I learned a lot, and I'm sure all of our viewers did too. I think all of the questions were answered inside the session only, and we still have few minutes left. So if you have any questions, you can write it in the comment section. I see no scope of any doubts left. It
No
was
worries.
very,
I
very
guess.
insightful, actually. I learned a lot today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arpan, for joining us today. We really we are really happy to have you here. Thank you so much, and I hope you join us again in sometime soon as well. Thank you so much, and thank you all the
Absolutely.
viewers who've
Great
joined us
pleasure.
today.
And stay safe, and enjoy coding. Thank you so
Yeah,
much. Thank you so much for having me.
thank you so much.
All right. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye, bye.